Mayday.
I have control.
The Advanced Flight Simulation Center at Naval Air Station Lemoore hummed with tension. Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Thorne, a 20-year veteran and the facility's chief instructor, ruled his domain with unchallenged authority. His technical expertise was legendary, but so was his arrogance. When a woman in an unmarked flight suit arrived with Captain Miller's tour group, Thorne's irritation grew. She drifted away from the group, silently observing his master control station with unsettling intensity. No name tape, no rank insignia, no squadron patched, just a blank flight suit that hung loosely on her slight frame. Thorne had enough. He strode toward her, his boots striking the concrete deliberately. "Just get out of the way, lady," he growled. She didn't respond, her eyes fixed on the diagnostic screen. His voice rose. "This is a restricted area for qualified personnel. Not a tour stop for desk jockeys playing dress-up." Still, she remained motionless. Inside the simulator, Ensign Davies was panicking. His training scenario had gone catastrophically wrong. The Super Hornet had entered a flat spin, and nothing was working. "Mayday, I've lost control." His voice cracked over the speakers. Thorne rushed to the controls, barking commands at Davies. But something was wrong. The simulator itself was malfunctioning, trapped in a deadly feedback loop. His expertise couldn't fix it. The emergency shutdown wouldn't respond. Altitude, 3,000 feet and dropping. The woman stood in his way to the manual override panel. Thorne didn't ask her to move, he simply shoved her. Her back hit the server rack with a metallic clang. She adjusted her flight suit calmly and stepped aside. Thorne reached the emergency switch. It didn't work. Nothing worked. His face went pale as his authority crumbled before his trainees. Altitude, 2,000 feet. Then she moved. 2 deliberate steps forward. "I have control," she said quietly. "You have what?" Thorne sputtered. "The system is locked." She ignored him, sliding into the instructor's seat. Her hands became a blur across the keyboard, typing commands that didn't exist in any manual. Accessing protocols hidden in the system's deepest architecture, she opened a concealed panel Thorne had never known existed. The chaos on screen began to stabilize. The spin slowed. She gripped the instructor's flight stick with perfect precision, reading the raw data like a language only she understood, trading altitude for airspeed with mathematical perfection. The simulator's AI flashed. Landing solution, impossible. She didn't react. The digital Super Hornet descended in a graceful arc, stretching every ounce of performance from a dead aircraft. The runway appeared. Altitude, 500 feet. The impossibility warning vanished, recalculating. The wheels touched down perfectly on the center line. The screen flashed green. Landed. Absolute silence. Then gasps. Thorne stood frozen, his mouth hanging open. Captain Miller walked to a secure terminal. His fingers trembled as he accessed a classified personnel file. His face went grave. He turned to the room, his voice like thunder. "Gunnery Sergeant Thorne, you have failed in your responsibility today." Then he faced the woman at attention and began reading. Service record, Hayes, Evelyn. Call sign, Ghost. Total flight hours, 8,247. Combat hours, 4,216. Distinguished. Flying Cross, with 3 oak leaf clusters. Silver Star. Navy Cross. Lead test pilot for the XF-45 Aurora project, the platform this simulator is based on. She wrote half the code you use every day. He paused, letting it sink in. Her current assignment as of 0600 this morning, Commander, United States 7th Fleet. The words detonated. 4-star Admiral? One of the most powerful officers in the entire Navy. The woman Thorne had shoved. Dismissed. Humiliated. Miller snapped to attention, saluting crisply. "Admiral Hayes, welcome to Naval Air Station Lemoore." Every person in the room saluted. Except Thorne, who stood frozen. His face gray with horror. Admiral Hayes returned the salute, then addressed the room with measured calm. What occurred today was a confluence of failures. A software bug, an instructor who prioritized ego over problem solving, and a system that allowed toxic gatekeeping to become institutional culture. She ordered Captain Miller to provide full reports on simulator maintenance and instructor evaluations. Then turned to Thorn. "Sergeant, you will remain after this briefing." After praising Ensign Davies and dismissing the trainees, only 4 people remained. Captain Miller relieved Thorn of his duties immediately, reassigning him to equipment inventory management, a humiliating demotion. "However, your ultimate disposition will be determined by Admiral Hayes. She has authority to pursue court-martial for assault on a superior officer." Alone with Thorn, Admiral Hayes asked him to look at her. "Do you know why I didn't react when you insulted me? Because I've heard it all before. For 30 years, I've been dismissed and underestimated. I learned that people who judge by appearance aren't convinced by words only, by competence." She continued with surgical precision. "You were afraid someone would see through your expertise to the insecurity underneath. Your arrogance wasn't about maintaining standards. It was about protecting yourself from feeling inadequate." Thorn's eyes glistened. "True expertise," she said, "is understanding the limits of your knowledge and remaining humble enough to keep learning." "What did you learn today?" she asked. His voice cracked. "I learned I'm a coward. That I've used knowledge as a shield against feeling inadequate. That I assaulted one of the finest officers in the Navy because of my arrogance and prejudice. I don't deserve this uniform." Admiral Hayes studied him, then nodded. "Here's what's going to happen. You'll serve in your new assignment with dedication. In 6 months, if Captain Miller reports genuine change, I'll authorize your return as junior instructor, working specifically with struggling trainees who don't fit the traditional mold. You'll teach them that competence matters more than confidence." Her voice hardened. "But if you revert to old behaviors, I'll personally ensure your career ends with court-martial. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." "Crystal clear." Thorn saluted with trembling sincerity and left. The story spread like wildfire, becoming legend, the ghosting of Gunny Thorn. It became a parable about humility, the danger of assumptions, and the true nature of authority. Thorn approached his inventory work without complaint. Spending evenings reading leadership books and attending voluntary workshops, he began mentoring junior personnel, including a struggling female airman named Rodriguez, whose instructors had convinced her she didn't belong. Thorn helped her see her own worth. She scored top 10% in her class. 6 months later, Thorn was authorized to return. The simulator bay had changed, new protocols emphasized inclusive leadership. A brass plaque now adorned the console, Admiral E. Hayes' ghost. Competence needs no announcement. The recovery sequence Hayes had used became official training, the Hayes maneuver, the ultimate test of skill and composure. Thorn's first assignment was Ensign Peterson, a bright young woman who froze under pressure. The old Thorn would have berated her. The new Thorn said quietly, "The machine doesn't care what anyone thinks you can or can't do. Trust yourself." Peterson successfully completed the Hayes maneuver. As she climbed out shaking, Thorn offered his hand. "Outstanding work. That's the kind of performance that saves lives." The culture at NASA Lemoore became a case study in institutional change. Throughout the fleet, when gatekeeping arrogance appeared, people were reminded of the quiet woman who had been dismissed and disrespected, who responded with competence so profound it rewrote reality. The brass plaque remained, a memorial to when a ghost became real, when impossible became possible, and when a broken man was given tools to rebuild himself. Admiral Hayes never spoke publicly about the incident, deflecting questions. She didn't need the story told. Legends build themselves when actions are extraordinary enough. The legacy endured across generations. Respect is earned through competence, not demanded through intimidation. True authority doesn't need to announce itself. And in moments of crisis, character reveals itself through action. That was the legacy of the ghost, not in plaques or records, but in changed hearts and elevated standards of everyone who heard her story and chose to be better because of it.